Anime trash, a rabbit hole of the most diseased content to reach the masses. Sometimes it's funny to talk about. Sometimes you would rather cut off your pinky than ever even admit you watched it. But you like it. You love it, don't you, you pain pig? The human mind is a bottomless pit of both creativity and absolute degeneration, both beautiful and terrible as the dawn. However, in Japan, content bubbles up from the absolute bottom of this cesspit littered with the absolute worst ideas and receives funding. Yes, the cup spilleth over the top and feeds the earth and eventually blossoms into a poo flower for all to see. And if general anime trash is but a poo flower, then Beheneko, the elf girl's cat is secretly an S-ranked monster, is a tall, proud redwood tree. My friends, this is it. Anime trash has officially peaked. Let's pop off. This episode of Bonsai Pop is brought to you by you. That's right, this channel has always been funded by its community and its Patreon. It is the essential, most important part of what Bonsai Pop is. Just about every week we do a viewing party that everybody is invited to. We watch really weird stuff from all over the timeline. The only Bonsai Pop Discord server is the Patreon Discord server where people can meet and connect, and honestly, it's always been a really amazing place for like-minded individuals to just feel like they can talk to other people about whatever. On top of our weekly podcast, the Bonsai Popcast, we do an additional premium podcast for the Patreon, and additional tiers have additional benefits, but really you get the most bang for your buck just by joining. This year we're going back to the Patreon first model, and a lot of things are going to be changing, and they're going to be changing for the better, and they're going to be changing for the best for the people in the Patreon. So I recommend that everybody at least check it out, see what there is to see, and if you can join, that would be absolutely amazing. It helps us out so much and make sure that we have steady income so we know that we can pay our bills. Thanks so much for your consideration. On with the show. So one of the things I love most about anime is its ability to always surprise me. From the view of a Westerner, the medium has always been subversive, right? It does away with what we consider conventional and does basically whatever it wants. American media is extremely calculated, workshopped, focus tested, reworked, and tested again until you get the Big Bang Theory or something else equally as homogenized to receive the widest possible audience. Anime, on the other hand, sometimes you gotta ask, who's this for? Sometimes the answer is concerning. And today we're going to be asking just that question about a brand new anime that is currently premiering on HIDIVE. Yes, HIDIVE, a streaming service that simply does not care about your Twitter. It thinks nothing of your Reddit posts or your Substack. HIDIVE, much like anime itself, does whatever it wants and laughs at you. But seriously, part of my anime journey, part of my love of the medium is the off the beaten path content. I've always and forever will find the most obscure crap and just watch it because I know it's going to be insane in ways Western content just can't match. Recently we watched Ninja Resurrection in the Patreon, and the finger, that was new. And that's the thing, there's always something new no matter what. I'm always surprised, and that is extremely satisfying, usually. Now, I'm not ashamed to admit that I've watched my fair share of the most despicable series out there. It's my job. Or my kink. I don't know, pick whatever Uno reverse card makes you happy. That said, seems like each year I get surprised by something I didn't think could possibly receive the money to be created. Last year, it was Gushing Over Magical Girls. That show definitely pushed the limits in more than a few ways. And we'll get into that, but there's plenty more that ride the line between kinda disgusting and deplorable and kinda kinky. GOM has an excuse, you know? It's kink empowerment, right? It's serving the BDSM community as a fantasy. Forget all that other stuff that made you lemon face. It's about not being ashamed of who you are, right? Right? Beheneko, the elf girl's cat secretly is an S-ranked monster, has absolutely no excuse. Like seriously, there's just no excuse for this. A little window into past Mike here. I'm writing this, and I am completely unsure of where to even begin on how deranged this anime is. Eventually, I decided to start from the start. Beheneko isn't exactly original. It's a slime-like, if that time I got reincarnated as a slime was made by a seriously disturbed deviant art curator. Essentially, this knight died in the battle against, I don't know, a demon lord or something, and was reincarnated in a dungeon as a Final Fantasy behemoth. Except he is a baby, so he looks like a kitten. He also gains powers from all the monsters he eats, just like Rimuru, you know, fine, normal. We're also quickly introduced to our lovely heroine, the elf girl, who... yeah, okay, this is clearly one of those shows. I mean, you don't give your main character doujinshi assets if it's going to be a general audience affair. Cards dealt, cards played. And she's changing. That was quick. But you know what? I'm still on board. You know, there's nothing wrong with this. It's pretty typical affair for smutty garbage. No shame in indulging a little in the more adult skewed content. And surprisingly, like, the art and animation is actually pretty good. This might be legitimately worth watching. Okay, so we're 7 minutes in. The cat's been hurt in a fight against a dragon and is discovered by the elf girl. Our heroes are united and the story can really begin. Okay, so I can kind of see where this is going. This is a voyeur fantasy. That's fine. I mean, we've had plenty of those before, right? Even ones where the view is from the perspective of an animal. My Life as Inokai-san's Dog came out in 2023. It's not good, but it has an excuse. You see, it's a comedy of errors, right? This guy turns into a dog, and all the inappropriate situations that follow are misunderstandings and accidents. You're the pervert, okay? And look, it's not like the cat knight is trying to see what he sees. He's a chivalrous fellow. He loves the elf girl in a platonic way for her kind heart and generosity. Oh my god, wait. Is this diaper stuff? Oh no, are those cat nards? Let's give it some more time, okay? We're like 8 minutes in. I'm probably the problem, right? I've seen too much. The internet has poisoned me. Take a deep breath, okay? Look, the cat, being the good knight that he is, has dedicated himself to the safety of the girl who saved his life and nursed him back to health. There's also the fact that he can't reveal that he's a monster, or, you know, he could be abandoned. We have a plot. We had a moment there, but surely it's gonna be fine. Normal trash, normal trash, normal trash. So the cat observes the elf girl in the dungeon and helps her out. His new seat is a set of big O bongos, but I mean, who honestly wouldn't want that? Guild receptionist here, dig the fit, be your best self. Oh my god, she's touching the cat's D20s. We are officially f***ed. Ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, we have entered new territory. And no, you have seen nothing yet. And I'll get to it in a sec, but first, note that Beheneko is a full show. 25-minute episodes, 12 scheduled episodes, a full complete season. Moderately comparable smut like Inukai-san's Dog and Why the Hell Are You Here Teacher are generally 12-minute episodes with an OP and an ED averaging 9 minutes of actual content. And by content, I mean very deliberate service to their viewers. There's really no story, it's just situations. But Beheneko is trying. Now, there's certainly other series that got this treatment and probably shouldn't have. Redo of Healer comes to mind. I mean, that show, wow. But I'm gonna be as professional as I can about it, okay? Redo of Healer at its core is a story about a man who is completely broken and turned into an absolute monster. It is incredibly dark, but the fantasies portrayed in it aren't uncommon, and when played out with consent, are way more normal than you might think. They aren't my cup of tea, but I understand who the show is for and the fantasies it was serving. It's smut with a plot. Of course, we also have smut with no plot, like Interspecies Reviewers, which I can't show on screen and rides the line between anime and just capital H, if you know what I'm talking about. And then you have last year's big surprise in Gushing Over Magical Girls. That anime flits between a little of the discomfort of Redo Healer and being its own thing, and then also having sequences that gave me the ick. But everything I've mentioned is the farthest end of the spectrum for anime so far. They may be more extreme than typical trash, but they fit somewhere in the sphere of understanding with the much weirder and darker parts of Japanese culture. Like, they're shocking, but they're not that shocking. Seeing this, Beheneko said, "Hold my beer," and then decided to jump off the edge of the universe. Episode 2 begins with the cat licking the elf girl's ear and making her sweatier than a 50-year-old man on r/gooning. But by this point, a question popped into my mind. Which character am I supposed to be relating to here? See, in most anime trash, there's a character you're supposed to be living the fantasy through. In Gushing Over Magical Girls, the main character, Utena, is supposed to be your avatar, your perspective if you're into the BDSM, right? But who is Beheneko for? Don't worry, we're about to find out. And it's why this anime has broken even my heavily calloused, war-hardened mind. After the ear lick, we are introduced to the cat girl blacksmith, who eventually parties up with elf girl and Tama, who is the cat. At this point, everyone is under the assumption that Tama is an elemental cat, which is basically a cat that has superpowers and gets as big as a tiger. We get a typical dungeon slime trash sequence, which of course requires a bath, right? Slimes are gross. Then you get a rod from God dropped on your nose out of orbit. I'm just gonna let this play out for you. That's right, Beheneko is a series about an elf girl who wants to f*** a cat. There's no hinting. There's no coy innuendo. This anime has the subtlety of a brick to the head. We've done it. We've reached the end. Because it turns out that on top of this insane premise, it's not just the elf girl. That's right, this is a harem anime revolving around a cat, a kitten. There are Shrek-like layers to this degeneracy, donkey. We have transcended. We have left the stratosphere. We are in uncharted territory. Every time I think the bottom of the barrel has been scraped, it just goes deeper. This year, they found Beheneko, an adaptation of a light novel which I can only imagine came from the deepest, darkest corner of the internet. How did this get funded? How did it manage to get produced? Where was the person who said, maybe we should use this money for something else? Because as it stands, Beheneko is servicing the just the right height, no bucket required community.
Just the right height, no bucket is required. I happen to have a pony mare that is JRHNBR.
Don't you start blaming the furries, okay? This is not their fault. I did a deep dive on the furry community back on Treesicle, and it turns out that the vast majority of them are people who are just a little weird and like to have playful fun while being anonymous. That's right, I'm saying not all furries. Hashtag not all furries. Yes, of course, there are diddies in that community, but there are diddies in every community.
Diddy is a monster in the way that I'm pretty sure even the devil is like, ooh.
And the more of this that I watched, the more I felt like Beheneko exists just to prove that it can exist. It makes a cognitive choice to cover every deep-seated weird thing that you accidentally saw on Google Images. And look, I want to make very clear that I'm not upset. I'm just shocked. Once again, anime has truly surprised me. And of course, the moldy corner of humanity that would be really into this series for the wrong reasons should be sentenced to a lifetime of therapy. But I'm past being upset about f***ing cartoons, okay? Honestly, being an anime creator can be a huge pain.
Tyler
sometimes.
here. At this point in the video, Mike went on to insult portions of the audience. I keep telling him to stop doing that because people won't subscribe, and he said, fine, but they know who they are. Anyway, you're welcome. And while I have you here, why not subscribe?
Beheneko isn't going to make us look at your cat different, alright? That said, Beheneko is a dumpster fire which constantly has oil poured on it every episode. I mean, episode 1 has adult baby diaper service with a cat. There's no way it isn't all downhill from there, and it is. It's getting to the point where I'm legit waiting for pregnant Sonic to show up, but really, the question is, what's next? I mean, where do we even go from here? Like, where are we now? My brain hurts. The cesspool of human ingenuity continues to barf up new and inventive ways to disturb everyone who doesn't exist solely within the deepest, darkest levels of the fan fiction community. But we have a new standard now. On top of the mountain of isekai, harem anime, fan service, and whatever the hell Inukai's dog is, Beheneko currently stands proud, covered in feces, sporting an Asagao face that would make a VTuber shudder. It is the king, the indisputable peak of anime trash. Bear witness and repent. So that was an episode. Sometimes you see something and you just gotta say something. And this series legitimately blew my mind. People said, no, Mike, don't do it, don't cover it. But hey, I did it anyway. And hopefully I did you a service, because right now you either are running to watch this show or you're really glad you didn't click on it by accident. So you're welcome. Like I said earlier in the video, please check out our Patreon. Thanks so much for supporting us. My name's Mike, this is Bonsai Pop, and I'll see you next week.